How did ancient humans pull off the first scam? We actually know. Almost 4,000 years ago, a man was cheated by a copper merchant. He was so angry that he carved his complaint into a clay tablet. That tablet still exists. The man's name was Nani. The merchant's name was Ea Nasir. Ea Nasir sold him low quality copper, but charged him for the good stuff. Then he took the money and sent him away. When archaeologists later uncovered Ea Nasir's house, they found Nani's complaint waiting inside. They also found several others. He kept his hate mail. At first, this sounds like a funny story from the ancient world, but it isn't. Because Ea Nasir didn't just pull off one scam, he discovered a trick that people are still using today, and the scam he ran in 1750 BC never stopped. The clay became paper. The paper became digital. The copper became mortgages, became derivatives, became crypto tokens. But the structure underneath, the trick that makes it work, stayed identical. Three scams invented in the ancient world built the blueprint for every financial fraud that followed. Once you see the pattern, you'll recognize it everywhere. In your bank, in your newsfeed, in the crisis coming next. Chapter 1. Ea Nasir figured out something that still works. If you can make a thing look different from what it actually is, you can steal. Before copper trade got complicated, you looked at the goat. You could tell if it was sick. The transaction and the truth happened at the same time. Copper broke that. Copper quality depends on smelting temperature or purity, alloy ratios. Nani didn't know any of that. He sent his servant with money to Ea Nasir's warehouse. The servant saw copper ingots. They looked fine. But grade is everything. Your tools either work or they don't. Your weapons hold an edge or they snap. You either bought what you paid for or you bought garbage. By the time Nani figured it out, Ea Nasir had the money. That's the first blueprint. Sell bad quality as good. Make the system complex enough that payment happens before anyone can check. Nani carving his complaint into clay, expensive, slow, permanent, shows how reputation was supposed to matter. Ea Nasir keeping the complaint tablets suggests it didn't. Demand was high enough that being known as a scammer didn't hurt business. That part's still true. 1,500 years later, a Greek merchant named Hegestratos came up with the second blueprint. Maritime loans were supposed to split risk in ancient trade. A merchant borrowed money against his ship and cargo. If the ship sank, the debt died with it. If it arrived, he repaid with interest. The system worked because everyone wanted the ship to make it. Hegestratos realized he could break that. Around 300 BC, he took out a maritime loan with his partner Xenothemis. He borrowed against a shipment of corn he had no intention of delivering. The plan: sail out of sight, drill holes in the hull at night, take the lifeboat, let the ship go down. Lenders write it off as bad luck. He keeps the loan money and sells the cargo separately. It failed because the crew heard him drilling. They chased him. He jumped overboard and drowned. The ship survived. The lenders sued. We know this because the Athenian orator Demosthenes argued it in court. Second blueprint: promise collateral that doesn't exist. Hegestratos wasn't lying about quality like Ea Nasir. He was lying about having anything at all. Then in 193 AD, the Praetorian Guard looked at both blueprints and decided to sell the whole government. Emperor Pertinax had been in power 3 months when his own bodyguards killed him. Then they auctioned his job. Didius Julianus, a wealthy senator, won. He bid 25,000 sesterces per Praetorian soldier, about 5 years of military pay each. He lasted 66 days. The frontier legions refused to recognize an emperor bought at auction. Septimius Severus marched on Rome. The Senate sentenced Didius to death. The Praetorians didn't lift a finger. They'd sold something they didn't own. Third blueprint: sell more than you actually have. The Praetorians controlled the palace, but not the empire. The second someone with real power said no, the whole thing collapsed. 3 scams, 3 blueprints. Bad sold as good. Fake collateral sold as real. Claims sold beyond what exists. Same foundation. The gap between how it looks and what it is. The delay between payment and proof. The trust that people won't exploit systems they're supposed to protect. The clay tablet became parchment, became a database. The copper became securities, became derivatives. The scam stayed the same. We just sped it up. Chapter 2. In 2008, investment banks sold mortgage backed securities rated AAA that were stuffed with loans given to people who'd never make payments. Pension funds bought them, municipalities bought them, other banks bought them. By the time the mortgages defaulted and the securities collapsed, the people who packaged and sold them had already collected their fees and moved on. Ea Nasir sold bad copper in 1750 BC. Wall Street sold bad mortgages in 2007. The clay tablet became a credit rating. The scam didn't change. The quality scam works because expertise creates distance. Nanny couldn't evaluate copper purity by looking at it. Pension fund managers couldn't evaluate mortgage quality when each security contained thousands of loans sliced and repackaged through multiple layers of financial engineering. Rating agencies, the supposed experts, were paid by the banks selling the securities. The referee was working for the team. Same three conditions Ea Nasir needed: complexity that prevents evaluation, buyers trusting sellers' expertise, enough time between transaction and discovery for the scammer to vanish into the next deal. 2 years before the financial crisis, a German payment processor named Wirecard claimed it held billions in cash sitting in Asian trustee accounts. Auditors couldn't verify the accounts directly, jurisdictional complexity, privacy agreements, trustees who wouldn't cooperate. The money didn't exist. Wirecard had created phantom balances the same way Higastratos created phantom cargo. By the time regulators demanded proof, executives had moved funds through shell companies across multiple countries, obscuring what was never there to begin with. The collateral scam survives because verification remains impossible at scale. Hegestratos' lenders couldn't watch his ship for weeks at sea. Modern lenders can't verify when the same collateral gets pledged to 6 different counterparties through rehypothecation chains, when assets sit in offshore vehicles designed to resist inspection, when derivatives create claims on assets that would take years of forensic accounting to trace. In 2021, a trader named Bill Huang used total return swaps to control massive stock positions while posting the same collateral to multiple banks. None of them knew about the others. When margin calls hit, they all tried to seize assets that didn't exist in sufficient quantity to cover the claims. $30 billion evaporated in 2 days. Selling what you don't own? Betting someone won't check until you're gone. Then there's naked short selling, selling shares you haven't borrowed and don't own, creating phantom shares that trade like real ones until someone demands delivery. During the GameStop squeeze in 2021, more shares had been sold short than the company had actually issued. Traders had sold claims exceeding the underlying reality. The Praetorian Guard sold an empire they couldn't deliver. Modern finance sells liquidity that evaporates in a crisis, sells shares that don't exist, sells ownership stakes in assets simultaneously pledged elsewhere. Every financial innovation creates new distance between claim and asset. Derivatives are bets on bets on bets, each layer further removed from anything you can verify. High-frequency trading means ownership lasts microseconds. Who can audit what no longer exists by the time you ask? Cryptocurrency promises to solve trust through technology while generating new scams that follow the old patterns. Exchanges holding customer funds that aren't there, tokens backed by reserves that can't be inspected, smart contracts that execute phantom transactions. The scams persist because the conditions that enable them haven't changed in 4,000 years. Regulatory systems still lag behind financial innovation. Ea Nasir operated before copper quality standards existed. Hegestratos exploited maritime finance before fraud law caught up. The Praetorian auction had no legal precedent. Today, crypto operates in jurisdictional gaps, derivatives outpace regulation, and by the time legislators understand the previous scam, 3 new ones are already running. Complexity still works as camouflage. The Roman Empire's size meant provinces learned about the auction slowly. Modern financial architecture is intentionally complex: tax avoidance, regulatory arbitrage, obfuscation as business model. Financial innovation often means finding new ways to hide old fraud inside instruments. Too complicated to prosecute, and profit still rewards scamming when enforcement is weak. Ea Nasir apparently thrived despite his complaints file. Modern executives collect bonuses before fraud surfaces, negotiate golden parachutes after getting caught, pay fines smaller than the profits they extracted. The gap between transaction and verification, the space where every scam lives, has widened, not closed. Markets move faster, but auditing takes longer. Products grow more complex while buyers' ability to evaluate them stays constant. Trust scales to global systems while verification remains local and slow. The mortgage crisis, the Wirecard fraud, the Artigos collapse, every pump and dump crypto scheme. Their Ian Nasir and Higastratos and the Praetorian Guard wearing suits, writing code, filing prospectuses. Same blueprints, same conditions, same outcome when someone finally checks what's actually there versus what was promised. The con artist didn't get invented, he was always here. The con artist didn't come from Wall Street or Silicon Valley. He was already around when people started trading promises instead of goats. We just handed him faster tools, longer supply chains, and laws that show up after he's gone. You know the pattern now. You can't unsee it.